What about Senator David Perdue of Georgia? Senator, welcome back to the Brian Kilmeade Show. Will you be going to Jacksonville?
Brian, I'll be there with bells on. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Are you kidding? This is a chance to let America see and showcase the difference between what President Trump's agenda is accomplishing for the country and what the radical left wants to perpetrate on America.
So you're going to be face off against this young man, John Ossoff. What do you think? Are you worried about your slot? They keep talking about Georgia changing.
Well, Georgia's in play. We've added 1.5 million new active voters here in Georgia in the last 3 years since the president was elected. But we're going to contrast, like I said, what the left is trying to perpetrate here. We saw in our governor's race just 2 years ago this topic, and we're going to make sure the people of Georgia know what's at stake here.
So, Georgia, I know one thing is pretty clear, that the violence in Atlanta caught the attention of the governor and the country. And then when we see children being gunned down, the governor's taken action with the National Guard, and the Democratic mayor has not protested. What else can be done?
Well, Brian, first of all, I support our governor. It's about time we had some leadership in the city of Atlanta. I mean, 31 people were shot over this past weekend, and there are anarchists in Atlanta who want it to go the way of Seattle and Chicago. I mean, good Lord. In Chicago, over July 4th, 87 people were gunned down, and 17 of them died. Even on Memorial Day, this is nothing new. 80 people were shot in Chicago, and 21 died. So what we've got to do, I mean, we're supportive of this Justice Act in the Senate right now. The Democrats wouldn't even let it put it on the floor to have a debate to amend it. We gave them 20 amendments, and they wouldn't do it. They want this more as a political issue than they do a solution. Look, we're all for police reform, but the vast majority of our police, as we know, serve us honorably. But we are receptive to reform, to database, to training, all the things that can make our communities safer. But the first thing we have to have is law and order, Brian.
And you're not having it in Atlanta. And, you know, how do you characterize how your mayor has done in Atlanta?
Well, she called out what happened in Atlanta. She said one thing I agree with, and that is that we know how to protest peacefully here. We can demonstrate peacefully. We've got a long legacy of that going back to the civil rights days. The difference this time is that we have outside agitators from outside the state really turning these peaceful demonstrations into violent acts of terrorism, really. And the looting and burning is unacceptable. Taking it into parts of town that have never seen this before, and then the shootings. To have an 8-year-old girl shot down on the streets of Atlanta. My question is, where's the outrage? I mean, seriously, this is unacceptable, and I applaud the governor for stepping up and bringing out the Guard to bring law and order back. It shouldn't be necessary, but it is necessary.
You know, I'm on the outside. I can only go by what I hear and what I read, and their word is that the cops are so upset about the way this police officer was charged that they're beginning to use a lot of those sick days and beginning to stand down. What do you hear? What do you know?
Well, we had a district attorney that, for political reasons, jumped the gun and got out of the sequence. Look, we want, if somebody does something illegal, whether they have a uniform on or not, we want them prosecuted to the fullest extent. These are tragic events that have happened in our country. They reach the headlines, but there's so many other acts of heroism that our first responders do every day that go unnoticed. We have to make sure that the police have our support. The vast majority of them serve us honorably. We all know that. And look, without them, we have examples right now, Brian, you called it out. Look at Seattle in the zone there that the police are not allowed. Can you imagine in a major city in America, the police are not allowed to go? I mean, that's ridiculous. And these cities that we're talking about are all democratically run cities. So if you want a view of America, if Joe Biden gets elected, look at some of these cities where they thrive on anarchy right now.
Let's talk about Georgia and the coronavirus. You guys were the first ones to open up. You took a lot of ridicule, but you've kept it at bay. Now, you added 3,406 cases. There's been 2,850 deaths. You added 21. So the numbers are going up, but certainly not overwhelming. How would you characterize how you guys are handling the virus?
Well, first of all, I applaud the governor again for opening up the economy. The president laid out the 3-phase plan. The governor followed that plan. We have reopened. We have essential workers that have never shut down. We have the military here with 9 bases that never shut down. And what we have right now is a slight uptick in cases, but, Brian, they're really skewing much younger. And we've learned a lot about this virus. It really attacks the elderly and the people who are having a health impairment. And our younger people are, while they're getting sick, many of them are asymptomatic, and the death rate continues to go down in Georgia. So we're convinced here, looking at the numbers and talking to a lot of healthcare officials and people in business, if we follow the protocols, we can continue to reopen this economy. Look, we created 7 million jobs in the country just in May and June, Brian. So the economy is resilient. It wants to reopen. People out there want to get back to work. And I think if we follow the protocols, we can get our schools and our businesses going again.
Do you believe the president's trailing right now in his in his quest to get 4 more years?
Well, I don't believe the polls. They missed him in 16 as an outsider. They missed me in 14 as an outsider. I don't have a lot of faith in the polls. What I believe in is what I see and hear when I talk to people. We've reached out during the crisis to almost 1 million people through our constituent conference calls at night. And I hear overwhelmingly they support the president's leadership against the virus, his leadership against this anarchy that's being perpetrated in America right now. And they see the way forward. They want to have hope, Brian, and I think this president has the ability to do that.
Senator, best of luck in your race. I hope to talk to you soon, and I'll be seeing you in Jacksonville.
Absolutely, Brian. See you in Jacksonville. Thank you.